This is why I deleted my Tinder and why every single girl watching this needs to delete her Tinder too. This happened a few years ago and I honestly consider myself so incredibly lucky to be alive after experiencing this. I was living in New York City at the time and I matched with a guy. For the entire time we were talking, he was really aggressively trying to get me to go out with him. And eventually I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna let this guy take me out on a date. Maybe I'm just being judgmental. Maybe he's not being desperate. Maybe he's just putting in an effort. So the day of the date rolls around and he tells me that he wants to take me out to a restaurant that is a bit of a hidden gem and is a little bit outside of the city in an area of Westchester called Yonkers. And even though he offered to drive me, I was like, no, it's all good. I actually had my own car in New York City, so I agreed to meet up with him. Now, I feel like an absolute idiot because I didn't even Google this place before I went. So on the night of the date, I'm driving to this place. I put it into my GPS and it's really weird because as soon as I see it in the GPS, it says that the place is closed. So I text my date and I'm like, hey, I just put this place into the GPS and it is telling me that it is actually closed. To which he replies, oh no, don't worry. They're really bad at updating their hours. This is the part where I should have just been like, oh hell no, and I should have canceled the date. But somehow I decided it would be a good idea to get in my car and drive 40 minutes to Yonkers for a date with a guy. So after 40 minutes of driving in traffic, I arrive at this place in Yonkers. I pull up to the building and I quickly realize that there is nobody in the parking lot and that indeed this business is really closed. Not to mention, my car is the only car in the parking lot. So I start to panic, and as I look behind me to put my car in reverse, I notice another car pull up. This car pulls up right beside me. I don't even look at the person sitting in the car. I just simply back up out of that parking lot as fast as I can, and I get the heck out of there. The entire way home, I am just looking in my rear view mirror to see if there's anyone behind me, and thankfully there was not. And the craziest part of all of this is when I got home, I went back onto that dating app and I could see that the profile had unmatched with me. I never got a chance to screenshot that profile. I never learned the guy's last name, but I can't tell you guys how many times I've heard this happening to girls on dating apps. It's not worth it. Just delete it for your own safety. And if you are going to be on dating apps, please always make sure to get the person's last name and to meet in a place that you are familiar with.
Guys, get ready for the ultimate dating disaster compilation. We are diving into the most shocking and hilarious tender horror stories from TikTok. Think disastrous dates, major red flags, and plenty of what was I thinking moments. These stories will have you questioning the wall of online dating.
I was told a really disturbing story recently, and it's taken me a little while to be able to put this video together because yeah, it's quite frightening, but I do feel like it could raise awareness and potentially help someone stay out of danger. So if you use Tinder, this video is for you. So this actually happened to a friend of a friend of a friend. So I don't actually know the person. So if this is you, I do apologise, but I was told this story and I do think that sharing it could help, potentially help someone. So, a lady, she was speaking to a guy on Tinder. They were talking for a couple of weeks. They hadn't FaceTimed, but they were talking on the phone and WhatsApping constantly. They arranged to meet at a bar in London, a bar that he chose. On the day, she said she felt a little bit uneasy, so she decided to ask her best friend to come with her. So her best friend went into the bar first, where she was meeting this guy. Let's call him Adam, and we'll call her Jane. So Jane's friend has gone into the bar about 5 minutes before Jane did. Jane then goes in, going in to meet Adam. So Adam's not there when Jane gets there. Jane's waiting there for about 10 minutes. Her friend is in eyesight at the bar. So she's just waiting at the bar, just making sure everything's okay. Adam then walks in. Now she notices straight away that Adam's pictures had definitely been enhanced. He looked different to the pictures what she'd shown. Now he had a Essex accent. So he sat down, they've had a little chat, they're talking, they're getting on fine. Jane then says, right, I'm just going to pop to the loo, because they were talking about going to another bar. So she gets up, goes to the toilet. Her friend is watching. As her friend watches, she notices Adam put something in to Jane's drink. She then runs towards the toilet to let Jane know. When she told Jane this, Jane said something does feel off. There's something about this person. It's giving me, it's just not sitting right with me. Something's not sitting right. So Jane's friend then says, fine, let's leave. They walk towards the exit of the bar. As they're leaving, there is a large van outside with 5 men. They're all looking at the girls, looking at them in a strange way, as if they recognise Jane. All of a sudden, Adam comes running out of the bar towards them. Jane and her friend start to run towards the main road, and Adam starts to shout at them in a different language. They said they're not sure what language it was, but the men that he was with outside, they looked Eastern European. So they all then were together, and Jane believes that they were trying to kidnap her, or trying to drug her and get her into that van. Now, this story gave me chills, and I've actually tried to film this video about 4 times now and struggled, because imagine that, like, I won't even want to imagine that. So please, guys, if you are using online dating, there are so many different things that can go wrong. You don't know who these people are, so please always make sure you FaceTime them. You know exactly who you're talking to. Check if they have social media. Just be really, really wary. Meet in a place that you know, that you've chosen, somewhere there's lots of people around. And just be very, very, very careful and safe.
I want to tell you about one of the worst dates I ever went on. I see so many people doing these videos, and I thought it was about time I told you guys about my dating horror stories. This was when I was like 19, and I was actually living in the Philippines. Shout out to the Philippines. I love the Philippines. I lived there for a long time. I was a 19-year-old girl. I was young and innocent, and I was on Tinder, and I matched with this guy, and he looked really cute. He was British, so I was like, absolutely yes, give me some of that. He looked pretty cute in photos. The photos were kind of filtered though, which is such an ick now that I think about it. And also, he didn't really have any photos like standing up, and he mostly like showed off his tattoos. Like, all of his photos were of his tattoos, which should have been red flag number 1. He had like a tattoo sleeve that he was clearly obsessed with, but I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was hot, so I was like, okay, that's fine. We matched and we agreed to meet at a restaurant. So I was always late. Always. I'm still late to everything, but I was always like hella late. So I showed up a little bit late. He was already at the restaurant, and when I get there, he looks like the photo, so I'm like, okay, I didn't get catfished. He looks fine. Little did I know. So I just got to the restaurant, and I'm standing there, and he didn't get up to greet me, which I thought was a little bit weird. I was like, okay, right off the bat, like, he's not the biggest gentleman. That's kind of a turn off. But yeah, he didn't get up to say hi to me or anything. He was just like, oh hey, whatever. He was like nice, but didn't get up, and I was like, that's rude. We order some food, we sit there, we chat. Right off the bat, honestly, he was not my vibe. He was just like he just talked about his tattoos the whole time. Like, my man, I can see you have tattoos. That's enough. Like, that's all he wanted to talk about, like, the whole time. And it was the classic, like, a big ass lion and a clock and a rose and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god. So the whole time he talked about his tattoos. He wasn't a gentleman. I don't know, I wasn't really liking him that much. We weren't really vibing. His personality wasn't the best. Like, his personality was just his sleeve tattoo. That was all he had to offer, really. But I still tried to like talk to him and be friendly, and it was fine. But I noticed that he hadn't gotten up for like, not even for the bathroom, for nothing, for 2 hours. And so finally we get the bill and everything, and I'm like, okay, I'm probably not gonna see this guy again, because I'm not really vibing with him. Get the bill, we get our things, and we are leaving, and I get up, and then I see that he gets up and I'm just like, part 2 of my dating horror story. Go watch part 1 if you haven't. So this guy gets up after we had like a 2-hour long date where he hadn't gotten up the whole time. And I'm standing up, right? I look back and I see that he's standing up, and tell me why this man was this tall. I'm having flashbacks. Now listen, I do not want to see anybody getting upset about this. This is a story time and this is my personal experience. Now listen, no disrespect to our short kings. We love you guys too. You guys also deserve to find love. Okay, this is not the problem. The problem is that I'm 5'3". Okay, I'm 5'2" if I'm not lying. So this man, if he was up to here, he must have been like 5 foot. No, less. What is this? Like... Okay, I had to take a second to compose myself because every time I remember this story, it's so funny. So I'm 5'2", so I'm like super tiny. So this man was so small. Obviously, he did not show his height in photos at all. He was not like standing up in any photos. Like, he was clearly like, he knows he's super tiny and he didn't disclose that, which I think is just weird. Like, I don't know. Nonetheless, like, again, no judgment, but I think it was just so funny because you guys could not, like, you guys had to be there to see the face of shock that I had. I was just like, I don't think I even hit it well. I was just like, what? And not just that, guys, it's also the fact that this man, like, didn't have the best, like, attitude and personality. Like, just, like, it was, I still to this day can't believe how tiny he was. And no, I don't think he was a little person or anything like that. Like, he did not, like, he was just extremely short. He was just an extremely short king. Like, that is my horror story, and that's why maybe we should start putting our heights in our dating profiles. Oh my god, please let me know if I'm alone in this, because I can't be the only one that this has happened to. But I seriously, like, I still remember that and laugh. That is one of my many dating horror stories. I have so many, and I've actually been catfished more than once. Like, this was not the first nor last time. Tinder, get it together.
Tinder date from Little Hell story time. He literally sent me abusive messages calling me crazy, saying that I used him and that I was basically nuts for no reason. So I'm 18 on Tinder. Matched with a guy, we're getting along pretty well. He lives really close, so I'm like, why not? Let's catch up. First date was like average, nothing that weird. Although he kept winking at me, being like, haha. And I'd be like, what? And he did it like 5 times, and I was like, hey, can you stop winking at me? I don't know why, like, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. And then he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, all right, whatever. Also, important part of the story, he told me that he was a virgin on our first date. And I said I didn't care, obviously, because why would I care? Anyway, second date, this is where it gets bad. We go bowling. A girl that I know, we're not really friends, we're more like mutual friends. She sees me at bowling and she's like, oh my god, hey, like, I'm here with my boyfriend, I'll introduce you to him. She brings over her boyfriend and I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. Whatever. So the guy that I'm going on a date with, let's call him Bob. So Bob and I are walking out of bowling and he's not speaking to me. And I'm like, Bob, what's wrong? And he's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Kept saying, don't worry about it. And I was like, just tell me. And he was like, well, you could have, like, introduced me. I've known you for 2 days. I'm not introducing you to my friends or someone that is not even my friend. Honestly, if he said it in a nicer way, I would have just said sorry, but... Anyway, so we're driving home and he's like, Annalise, I have to tell you something. I've lied to you. And I'm like, what have you already lied to me about? I've known you for 2 days. So he pulls over the car dramatically and he's like, obviously I'm not a virgin. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I went clubbing and I lost my virginity to this, like, 30-year-old. I'm so embarrassed, so embarrassed. So I was like, okay, that's kind of odd that you lied about that. But anyway, so he's driving me home and he sees a group of people he used to be friends with. So he's like, oh my god, I can't believe they didn't invite me. So he parks in front of them and is just spying on them, staring at them whilst I'm in the car. So I'm just sitting in the car like, what is happening right now? Whilst we're in the car, I just wanted to make it very clear with him, like, hey, just letting you know, I'm not interested. I just got out of a relationship. I just got cheated on. You know, just not looking for anything at the moment. So I thought it was very clear that I didn't want to speak to him again.
Anyway, drives me home and he's like, I need to ask you something. And I'm like, what do you need to ask me? He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, just tell me. Like, just tell me. I hate beating around the bush. And he was like, when would you be ready to like do stuff with me? What? So I was like, I don't know, like maybe tomorrow, maybe never. I meant never. I get home, I'm barely messaging him because I'm weirded out, confused. He's just kind of rude and odd. I'm still replying here and there just to be nice. Eventually he sends me a paragraph, like this bloody big, saying that every time he goes on dates with girls, he gets used, that he's such a nice guy, he doesn't know why this happens to him, that I've used him for nights out. Also, I'm pretty sure I paid for the second date, so it was like 50-50 paying for dates. So I didn't use him for anything. And he said that I used him for nights out. And I was like, why would I use you for nights out when I can have nights out with my friends? And then he was like, why would you even go on a date with me if you don't want a relationship? And I was like, look, I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted to go on a date, meet a new person. It made me realize, you know, like I'm still in love with my ex, okay? I'm still in love with him. We'd only been broken up for like 3 months, so like kind of valid. And then he was like, you're crazy. Like, I can't believe you've said that. Like, what you're saying is nuts. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I just said in the nicest way possible, hey, I'm not interested. Best of luck. I still have feelings for my ex. Sorry. He proceeds for the next... This was in 2019. He proceeds for the next 3 years to message me. Like, every 6 months, yeah, he would message me like, hey, how are you? Or like message me on Instagram and be like, oh my god, hi. And then he would delete the message when I wouldn't reply. Like, sir, it makes sense why this happens to you when you lie about random stuff on first dates. Say that I'm using you for dates when I paid for half the dates. Like, what? If you want more story times and you got through this whole video, feel free to follow me. I have plenty of juicy story times. Also, if my mum is watching this, I'm so sorry. This happened like 5 years ago. And I didn't tell you that I was going on this date because I knew you wouldn't let me go. Love you, Mum.
So I guess Tinder horror stories are all the rave right now, and I think this one's going to be tough to beat, okay? So I was talking to this girl for a couple days. We decided to get together, go out and get an appetizer. So I meet her, she looks like her photo's perfect. We sit down, and without me getting a word in, this girl starts going off telling me about how most of her family members are in mental institutions with schizophrenia. Then she tells me this morbid story about watching her best friend die because he was driving drunk. Then she tells me that if she was to ever get pregnant, that she would keep it if it's a boy, but she wouldn't keep it if it's a girl, because she doesn't want to raise a girl in this society. So at this point, I excuse myself to the washroom, and I'm standing there looking at myself in the mirror, like, bro, like, you should just leave. Just walk out the door, it's fine. But I was like, nope, I invited her out, I'm gonna see this through, I'll, like, pay the bill. So I go sit back down, and the food comes, and I've had, like, 2 or 3 bites, and she goes, do you know what eczema is? And I'm like, yeah, that's like that rash that people get. She's like, yeah, so I have that on my feet. And I'm like, oh, like, sorry? Like, whatever, like, it's not a big deal, people get it. And she's like, want to see? I'm like, no, not really, like, I'm eating right now. And she pulls out her phone and she starts showing me photos of the most disgusting, rotten feet I have ever seen. Oh, I'm still so traumatized. Anyway, I'm like, please stop, like, I don't want to see this right now. And she just, like, keeps putting the phone in my face. And me like, no, look. And at this point, I'm like, this is a prank. Like, somebody has hired her. Maybe she knows one of my exes or something like that. Like, there's no way. But she just wouldn't stop. So anyway, I'd like, get the bill, pay it, and I'm like, it's time to go. So I'm waiting with her for her Uber to come at this point. And now she's, like, trying to come home with me. And I'm like, no, like, this did not go well. Like, it's time for you to leave.
Hey, have y'all seen the video on here about the man finding out that his Tinder date was homeless because she brought all her shit to his house? Like, she brought all her shit to his house, and he was asking her, like, why do you have all of your stuff? And she kept trying to, like, not tell him that she was homeless. She kept trying to be like, I live in the city. And he like, okay, you live in the city, but why the fuck did you bring all of your shit here? And she was like, well, I rode the bus here, and then the bus stop is so far from your house. I have to get an Uber from the bus up to your house. And he was like, are you homeless? And she was like, well, I live in the city, and I mean, like, well, yeah. He was like, you're homeless? And she was like, well, yeah, you know, I'm just in between homes right now. I'm in between homes. And he was like, well, shit, you smell good. And she was like, yeah, I'm clean. I'm a clean person. I be taking showers at the truck stop. in my mind, I'm already like, girl, I'm thinking he gonna send her home. Like, you can't. No, that's not what I signed up for on the Tinder day. I didn't sign up for a homeless woman because in my mind she finna try to move in. That's not what the fuck happened. This nigga says, well, I'm homeless too. He say, well, I'm homeless too. This ain't my house. This is my friend's house, but I got it for the night. And she was like, well, shit, while we go out or whatever, can I leave my stuff here? Is that safe? This man said, well, shit, you looking good. You smelling good. We ain't got to go nowhere. I got Netflix. We could chill. These two homeless people that met on Tinder, and neither one of them should have been on Tinder. That is not a priority in either one of their lives right now. They should be looking for a home. They should be looking for better employment. They should be looking for anything else other than a Tinder date. But, child, I'm gonna see if they got a part 2. I'm gonna see, because I want to know, did he do a tour? Did they do, like, what happened? Did y'all have a part 2? Did y'all love it? Did y'all like it? Did y'all get a second date? How are y'all dating? Where y'all go? I don't know. Maybe they done moved into his car, honey.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and I'm going to tell you about one of my Tinder horror stories. So anyway, I was 18 and I had just kind of gotten on Tinder, and I was talking to this guy. I talked for a while and he was like, do you want to go out for drinks? And I was like, sure, sounds good. Go to this drink place. I get there first. He says he's approaching me. I look up. The man that is approaching me looks nothing like his pictures. Like, vaguely, but also not really at all. So he also looked way, way older than what he looked like. And I was like, oh, red flag. Anyway, get to the date, and it was horrible. We were talking and it was so awkward. We had almost nothing in common. The conversation wasn't flowing. It was noticeably awkward for both of us. And I was 18. I didn't know any better. I should have just gotten up and said, hey, I'm going to go now. But I was kind of just dropping vague hints like, okay, well, it's getting late. I should go. And he'd be like, no, let me buy you another drink. So I stayed. Anyway, gets towards the end of the night, I go to leave and he was like, oh, do you want to go for a walk on the boardwalk? Because we were on a beach. And I should have said no, but I did. And I went for a walk. And it was still noticeably awkward at this point. Anyway, we're walking and Mans goes to grab my hand. And anybody who knows me, even at the age of 18, gross. I don't like it. So he goes to do that. I pulled my hand away and it was really awkward. And I was like, oh, don't do that, please. And we're walking and we get to the end of this boardwalk area and Mans turns to me and goes to kiss me. And I was like, no. And I dodged it and it was so awkward. And I'm pretty sure I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom, text my best friend everything that was happening. She was like, you got to get out of there. Anyway, go back out. And I was like, yo, my best friend's dying. I have to go home right now. And he was like, okay, well, let me drive you home. And I should have said no. But I was like, after a bit of arguing, he ended up taking me home, get in his car. I get into his fucking passenger seat. And I look at the door and I'm like, brethren, where is your door handle? And he was like, oh, sorry, this car only opens from the outside. And I was like, you could have told me that before I got in your car. Anyway, it drops me off. Get out the car, goes in for another kiss. And I was like, dude, don't. Anyway, I go back inside. Mans has the audacity. He texts me when I get inside. He was like, hey, Taylor, look, it was really fun hanging out with you, but I think this isn't going to work out between us. I think you're a fun girl, but I think, I don't think you're right for me. So we're just going to leave it there. And I was like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. If that's the call that you want to make, sure thing, broski. And then I went inside and now I know how to leave dates that I don't want to be on anymore.